Welcome back to my 100% playthrough of Heretic on the Black Plague Possesses the difficulty. Played through the Heretic plus Hexen re-release on the Kex Engine. We are doing all levels with a 1-star, and this is E5M7, Foetid Manse. Now the word Foetid can be spelled as F-E-T-I-D, and it means something foul-smelling or odorous, like a fetid odor. Something that stinks, basically. And a manse is possibly, in this context, a house inhabited by the minister of a parish or any, like, important clergy member in a parish. Something like that. Or it could be an old word for any sort of, like, dwelling. Like a house that is occupied by its owner. Or it could just be a large house or a mansion in general. Those two words, mansion and manse, are related, as a matter of fact. And they all come from the medieval Latin term mansus. And mansus is basically a dwelling, and it comes from the verb manere, which means to remain or stay. And fetid also comes from the Latin word fetidus, which has descendants in most Romance languages, like fetido in Spanish, or fetido in Portuguese, or fetid in French, and so on and so forth. I believe the Brazilians pronounce it as fetido, or fetido. I think it's the latter more so. Anyways, we are going into the Stinky Manor right now, so let's begin. We're going to avoid all the saber claws and Ophidians until we grab the crossbow. You could use the wand to kill those gargoyles, but come on, they're just right there, and they look so crossbowable. That's not an adjective, but it is now. You can make anything into an adjective, really. But what is important is going around this area like I did, just to get some enemies to infight, get them to move around. And while they're doing that, you have an opportunity to snipe these Ophidians, which is what I'm going to do with my trusty elven wand, because should you get hit by these projectiles, especially that orange one with no armor, you are in for a world of hurt. Well, at the same time, you can get these saber claws hit instead of you, should you align them properly. But by the time the saber claws arrive in an area that you're in, you might as well dedicate to going back to another area and fighting some other enemies, like these Ophidians here. You can get the gauntlets of the necromancer in this area, and now you don't have to wait for this little drawbridge to raise whenever you go to this area, I believe, which is interesting. Anyways, let's get rid of this big boy. This sneaky snack. And we can go hither to grab the yellow key. And when we have the yellow key, we can go straight into the yellow door, which is right here. But before we do that, I'm just going to troll some of these guys. I'm a troll. It's so epic. Till the saber claws come in. Yeah, there are a lot of these guys out here. And I'm not gonna fire at them too much unless they are really in the way. I just really don't like these Ophidians in particular. Yeah, take a look at yon Ophidian on the battlements. And all of his buddies. And look, it's a disciple of the Sparrow. Yeah, this disciple hears you're fighting and sometimes gets really upset that you aren't immediately going into the yellow zone. That sometimes he might just straight up come out. Oh well. We got one out of the way. Two. Can we get a threefer? Oh, without killing at least one Saberclaw. Make that two. I wasn't even intentionally aiming for him, but, you know, auto-aim. Limo. Even if you run out of ammo for your trusty crossbow, that's still fine. You'll get more. And should you take any damage out here, which you very likely will, there will be a lot of like crystal vials out here that you'll be able to pick up and compensate for pretty much most, if not all, of the damage you take. So you should be fine in the long run. Anyways, I'm going to get rid of you. Because I feel like getting rid of the Saberclaws before we even go into this area. I know, it's so foreboding. Especially with how long it's taking me to get in there. But I like to clear this place out at this point, so I don't have to deal with these guys later. Yeah, look at that. That's like, what, 40 damage? With the single orange shot? Yeah, that's why you want to get rid of these guys whenever you can. Especially when they're sniping you from the battlements and other places. They are so annoying with how much damage they're able to put out with just single shots. Like, if you get hit by two of those things and they decide to do like high, if not max damage rolls, you are looking at upwards of like 80 damage. Ugh. Speaking of an Ophidian on the battlements, this one is particularly snipeable. There we go. Alright, should we go into here? You'll see at least one Saberclaw, usually several. And this one's dodging all my shots like a pro, but that's fine. We can work with this. Even if there's not a lot of ammo left, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna move on and grab some ammo whilst going into here. And grab some more here and there. We're going to head into this area as well, because not only are there ammo pickups here, over here is a ring of invincibility, which may be useful later on. And there's another ammo pickup, quite the big one as a matter of fact, but we'll save it potentially. If you feel so inclined, you can use a Tome of Power with the Elven Wand to clear these guys out faster. But not completely necessary. Anyways, there's that Crystal Geode. But who knows, you might save some ammo with that. Could be a pretty decent investment. And you know what? I will do that. Get rid of these Ophidians, because there's some on the ground floor, as well as on the battlements and on top of places like over yonder. You'll see a few. But we do have some crossbow arrows now. It still feels wrong calling them arrows. I will always refer to them as bolts at some point, but they are ethereal arrows apparently. Just like how in Doom you pick up clips for your pistol and the chain gun. Yeah. Anyways, let's use our power to kill this fellow real quick. We might have to take a sip of the sippy juice, but that's fine. We're gonna press this button and go into this teleporter, which will take us all the way here and allow us to kill this particular Ophidian who's stinking up the joint. Then again, this place has the name Foetid for a reason, I suppose. Anyways, we took quite a bit of damage, but that's fine, because should we dodge all these projectiles and be able to kill all these Ophidians, we'll be able to snatch ourselves a quartz flask, among other things. I'm gonna snatch that right now and take it. And whilst we are here, we can shoot these fish in a barrel. However, you want to watch out, because when you're around these parts, there will be some gargoyles that will be alerted to your presence. However, you still have a pretty good opportunity to still shoot these saber claws. There are a few down here as well, probably still from the encounters from earlier, but if you strafe run and slowly walk hither, you can get a Mystic Urn. That's not a secret, but it is something that is very nice to have either way. So let's strafe run through these bars like so. And I'm going to use that Mystic Urn right now. Save me some time. And we'll drop down and grab this green key, which is very nice to have. And we can hang out here for a bit to get some guys moving around. But if you want to try sniping some people from areas like this, just be aware that these guys will usually have the higher ground, which makes fighting them a bit of an inconvenience most of the time. Especially when they do stuff like that, like hit you with the final projectile at the tail end. Ay, ay, ay. Well, we can go out this side as well. Get ourselves some ammo, among other things, like the Shadow Spear. There's another opportunity to snipe some of these Ophidians that come out towards these openings. But sometimes they just stick around in one spot. And when you shove them back, they decide not to move back to where they were before. Oh well. I think it's high time to start using a crossbow as well. And look, here's another quartz flask, which may come in handy pretty much immediately. Make sure you don't get too stuck up on the level architecture. Like the brazier here, the hanging corpse there. Stuff like that can easily block your way and allow Ophidians to get you with those annoying pot shots that deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Anyways, should you return here, you can go up the stairway. And now you can go through these areas, which can potentially make encounters like this a little bit easier potentially, but no promises on that front. We're just going to go around and grab some extra stuff to make sure we're ready to deal with these guys, because these Ophidians, they sure love to fire endlessly at you. But there are still plenty of opportunities where you can take advantage of the level geometry yourself, unless you get foiled by it like so. But what I meant to say is, well, that teleporter will take you to the same place as it did on the other side, because these are symmetrical. But like I was saying, there are certain areas where you can just full on take advantage of the level geometry. Like, play hit scan Harry with some of these guys, even with braziers. Yes, look at this. Finally, revenge. You can shoot through the brazier, and they can't. Whoa, you want some too? Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here. You little rascal. Alright, well, since you may have acquired the green key at this point by going into a little, like, pool of water, or a fountain, or whatever you want to call it, you can now go into this area. Get some time bombs. Get a map scroll. Get a quartz flask. And get some opportunities to kill enemies like so. There's also a hell staff here, which is also very nice to have. And while you're here, you might as well stop around this part. Watch out when you go into here. It gets pretty dark and scary. Ooh. This place is also pretty dark and scary, so watch out for it as well. But for the most part, that should be most of the things. Most of them. This will just take you up to a place where you can jump out from. There's also the Disciple of the Sparrow here. Decide to sneak on in. How horrifying. But he was hiding by this button. Very sneaky button in this dark area. In fact, something I neglected to grab was this torch, which makes navigating through that particular area easier. So you can do that before you even go up these stairs. But either way, when you press that button, that dark, scary area, for context, this is how it would look if you use a torch. You could then go into the portal here, get rid of some gargoyles, use this wall. While you're fighting the gargoyles, you'll get a morphobum out of it. Now let's get rid of this Ophidian. Let's play some time bombs here, actually. Like a troll. You like how I troll them? Yes, you want to press that button where the Ophidian is. So you can go into this building and encounter some more gargoyles. You can troll them as well. Usually the time bombs do a pretty good job at that. Anyways, while you're in here, stuff like that will also happen. And when you go up the stairway, there'll be some scary disciples. Ooh, scary. Scary purple men. Place a time bomb there to troll these guys. Epic troll. And that's just about everyone. Except you. You want to be special and hide in this little spot, huh? Well, there's nothing in that spot, but in this spot there was a bag of holding. So make sure you get that. You want to get more ammunition. And while you're here, there's a Wings of Wrath. Pick up, but also use that last Ophidian in this one spot. And when you press this button, you'll be able to go into another place. But while we're here, we're going to drop down into this area to get this secret fire mace. Very nice, right? Well, this is the area that opened up. And this is a pretty scary area, believe it or not, because, well, it's so scary that here's what I'm going to do, actually. Well, first off, I'm going to kill these fire gargoyles, who by themselves are not a threat, but I'm going to use the Wings of Wrath to go up here and get the Tome of Power and the Phoenix Rod. And I'm going to use this area, and then while it goes down, I'm going to use the Ring of Invincibility and the Tome of Power, and we're going to burn all these fellas. because there are a lot of them in these little hidey holes, and their damage adds up. They can do a lot of damage to you in a short amount of time, especially if you don't have a shield. There's another ring of invincibility, so it's a good reason for you to use it here. And when you actually land here, you'll tag another secret. That should be the last one, I believe. And it is. Alright, so let's clean these guys up as well while we're here. Using our trusty flamethrower. Our Flammenwerfer. Werf's Flammen. Isn't it nice? And while we're here, since we cleared out the battlements or the ramparts or whatever you want to call them, perhaps you can even call these ramparts of perdition, if you want. But we got the blue key out of that one area, which is very nice to have because it allows us to go into here. And as you can see, there are some disciples waiting for you. And they're pretty scary. Perhaps too scary, actually. Whoa! So let's just get the Ring of Invincibility. Let's blow these guys up. Because they're scaring the hell out of me. We're going to press this button on this side. And as you can see, there are even more scary guys. So you know what, chicken? And we can just blow up the rest of these guys with a Phoenix Rod. Usually you'll be able to hit at least one. And you can even use a Crusher to your advantage, which is also here. And by the time you run out of power for your Ring of Invincibility, you should have an opportunity to get rid of the rest of these guys like so. You can use a Fire Mace. If you still have a Tome of Power, like you haven't used it in the area where you want to kill all the Ophidians in a fast way, you could probably use that as well. Or perhaps even one of these disciples drops a Tome of Power. Maybe not. Usually they don't, but you never know. Anyways, let's press this button as well. And grab this quartz flask, and that should be almost all the items. There's like one more around here somewhere. Yeah, it's the quartz flask here. You can also use a Shadow Sphere if you don't want to get hit by the Saber Claws while you're going out and about here. Like once you get it. I neglected to use it because, well, aside from the Saber Claws, there's not too many enemies that require, or rather, ask you to use it that much. I mean, you could use it here if you want to make things more challenging, I suppose. Because these guys will throw projectiles in a frenzy. But if you're standing right here, or right here, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. Probably. And you should have enough shots for the Phoenix Rod to get rid of the rest of these guys, which is pretty good. But ideally you should have 188 kills at this point. And you should have all the items and the secrets. So I have all those, and I think we're done with Foetid Manse. Alright, that was the stinky mansion. Quite a stinky dwelling indeed, with all those Ophidians slithering around. Yeah, with the new balance, it's like these guys do way more damage with those orange shots, and it makes this level pretty challenging at times, especially since you don't get armor until much later on into the level, until after you get like the green key. You have to fight through the battlements just to even have a chance to even get the green key, which involves you fighting a number of Ophidians. And I didn't like Skein of the Sparrow, E5M7 with all of its Ophidians, but here I can kind of respect it because you can get up there quickly. It is very dangerous to do so, however, but it is still possible. But, you know, lots of Ophidians, especially at the start. That's why I took my precious time in sniping some of them near the beginning before I even went into the actual walled area. And that walled area I actually find really cool. This is like one of the coolest levels aesthetically to me in all of Heretic, because it has this like walled in area. where you're basically, it feels like you're about to go into a huge walled city. It feels like to me, but it's only a walled like set of buildings, like 3 buildings, but still this small set of like 3 buildings with a big wall around it, I find to be really cool for like 95, 96. But yeah, with all that, there aren't too many balance changes to the level aside from the addition of the 3rd secret with the fire mace, I believe, which you can get by going through the teleporter and dropping down to that one area. Like the one teleporter that sends you to where you push the button and it opens up the area where you go down into the place with all the fire gargoyles, and because there are so many of them and it lowers so slowly to the point where you'll be fighting several of them at a time, it is pretty scary. So that's why I use the Ring of Invincibility there. But you know how it is. But yeah, aside from that, there aren't too many changes to the balance of the level on its own, I suppose. But I don't know. It's otherwise pretty straightforward. But anyways, we are done with the Stinky Mansion. So in the next video, I'll be seeing you in the final level of Shadow of the Serpent Riders. And that will be Field of Judgment. But until then, I'll see you when I see you. So see ya.